Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on a beautiful Saturday morning here at Phang at the Thailand beach, and we welcome everybody who's dropped in to have a chat. This is all about you, and it's all about your thoughts and your questions, agreements, disagreements, topics, comments, questions, and I've got a couple of questions to kick off with. The theme of the next hour is going to be based around the question, is Thailand ready for the high season? Given that tourism gives many Thais such a high proportion of their income, obviously in some areas more than others. I mean, if you're a Thai in Phuket, you're going to be relying on tourism a lot more than if you're living up in Udon, Whoop Whoop, up in the northeast, where it's going to be less important. Although there are some beautiful places to go up there in the northeast, and I do hope to spend more time up there in the future. I've sort of got a bit of a wish list of places I'd like to go, and quite a lot of places up in northeast are on that list. Scott D, who's been a long-time supporter of the channel, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody else. Scott mentions that we've crossed over the 37,000 subscriber mark. I mean, subscribers is just one measure of the success of a YouTube channel. Now, the bottom line, of course, is how much are you actually making from YouTube? And YouTube is a black box, and the only way that you can figure out how to make money from YouTube is to try things. Now, YouTube aren't going to tell you. As I said, it's a black box that you've got to do your experimentation of. What works for one channel may not necessarily work for another channel, although obviously there are some fundamental things you need to do if you're going to have a successful YouTube channel. But Scott says 37,000 legitimate subscribers. I think I know what you're saying there, Scott. There are some YouTube channels here in Thailand who actually go out and buy subscribers. There are places on the dark web you can do that. It doesn't actually boost your channel at all. Although, of course, if you go and have a look at their analytics, go to socialblade.com and you can check the analytics of any YouTube channel, including ours. And you'll see these sudden jumps in subscribers. Now, that doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis. If you've sort of got this steady growth and suddenly there's a jump of 50,000 subscribers, especially if it's a magic number like 50,000 or 100,000 extra subscribers in 24 hours, yeah, you know that they've been fiddling the books. Scott does ask some good questions, though. Here's a question from Scott. Former Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin was ambitious in his quest to win over electric car manufacturers, Formula One racing and tech companies. What's to become of those efforts? Well, I mean, I'm sure they'll continue. I would like to add, though, and part of our theme today with Thailand grappling with a number of key problems, and I'll put on the list the high Thai baht, and then I'll put in the flood situation into that, and we'll comment about those separately during the program. I'm pretty sure you've got your own thoughts on the matter as well. But those two things aside, I'm pretty sure that they will be following up to try and encourage tech companies to come to Thailand. As far as the electric car manufacturers, well, just in the last year, I think we've had, 4 or 5 that I can sort of think of off the top of my head, factories for electric car batteries, for full assembly of electric cars. I know GWM have built a full factory, and I think their Dolphin car is now entirely manufactured. Dolphin? Yeah, the small, about the size of a Honda Jazz. I think that's fully manufactured now in Thailand. So yeah, I think we'll see in the next couple of years an increase in the number of electric car components and full cars built here in Thailand. There's another company, I think, called Aon, AIOIN or something like that. They're now building a car here in Thailand. And just every day we are seeing more and more electric cars floating around the streets. I know there's some people that just think electric cars are a total scam. And I'm not sure why you have that point of view, but that's legitimate if you feel that way. I see it in a quite different way, and that's a different debate, probably on a different channel other than Thailand. As far as the Formula One racing is concerned, I'm not really sure if that was ever a legitimate claim that Thailand could host a Formula One race. They were talking about having it around the streets of Bangkok, maybe during peak hour on a Friday afternoon. That'd be interesting. Tuk-tuks and motorcycle taxis arguing about a fare, and then a Formula One racing car wanting to pass them along Sukhumvit Road somewhere. I can see that happening. So I'm not sure if that was ever a legitimate. Maybe it might have been a good idea, but I just don't think Thailand sort of fits into the remit necessarily of Formula One racing. They would have to hold it outside of Bangkok. I think there was talk of Utupao, but they'd have to construct a proper racing course there. That's a huge investment. Or up in Buriram. I mean, they've got a racing track there, but it's not suitable, of course, for Formula One cars. Might be okay for the bikes, but I don't ever think that was going to happen, although it made a good headline for a few days. But the efforts to attract overseas investment, I'm sure, will continue. But at the moment, Thailand does have some key challenges that it needs to confront. The mop-up as we get ready for the high season, I think, is an important one, and portraying to the world and the people that want to come to Thailand for tourism that it's a good place to visit at the moment, despite the bad headlines that are making international banners. I think we need to portray that Thailand is still a great place to come to. And you might get the impression as you read through the various... I'll turn the volume up for you. That might be a little bit low for some people. How's that? It may be that some people see those headlines and think that the whole of Thailand is just inundated in waist-deep or 1 metre high floodwaters. Well, of course that isn't the case. The floods are quite isolated to particular areas. Now, Chiang Mai has been particularly badly hit, for example, but I've been getting messages, quite a few comments and emails from people saying, look, I live in Chiang Mai. I haven't seen any floodwaters at all. I mean, they may not get out much, but of course, even in a city like Chiang Mai, the flooded areas are quite isolated when Phuket gets flooded. You're talking about 4 or 5 streets that are sort of the usual victims of the usual suspects in these cases. Same up in Pattaya. It's always the same spaces that always seem to get the flooding. And we had some very big rains last night. Rain about 3 or 4 in the morning, thunderstorms and huge, heavy downpours. But I woke up this morning and no signs of any flooding or anything. So, I mean, some areas obviously cope better than others. So that's just one question. Thank you to these super chats I've got so early in the program, and I'd like to acknowledge Gola. Thank you very, very much. And I'm not really sure. You're obviously in the UK. That's about all I can figure out, Gola. Speaking of which, speaking of goals, I've got who's calling me this time of the day? I've got no one I can hand the phone to. I'll turn that off. Somebody calling me. One of my subscribers just wanting to have a coffee with me. I'll be talking about goals specifically in a moment from a question. Johnny also, thank you very much. Looks like you're in Thailand. He says, thanks for all your efforts. So thank you very much for those super chats. It's much appreciated as we sort of delve into all these other questions. Now, speaking of getting ready, here in Thailand, Turtle Beach, we've had our own challenges with the weather. It was last week we had 7 or 8 days. It was just awful. Just pissing down with rain every day. Well, not raining all the time, but we did have accompanying these fairly strong winds, strong for this area. And it was a Thursday night, I suppose, Thursday last week. That Thursday, it would have been Thursday. I can't quite remember when. I think probably Thursday night. Might have been the week before. 65-year-old brain. Where we had a confluence of high tide, these swells coming in from the west, and some pretty high and choppy seas. And we lost about 3 metres of our foreshore. Now, I'll just try and show you what this means as we go to one of the magic buttons here. Here we go. So let's check this out. How we get it running? There we go. So this is just looking from the foreshore at the front of my place. A gentleman there having a bit of a peaceful moment this morning. This is the foreshore, which has got all these casuarina trees, which were planted, I don't know, 100 or 200 years ago. They're certainly very, very high and very, very mature. And some of those have been located right as that man is sitting. That particular casuarina tree you see on the screen used to be about 3 metres from where the foreshore finished and a gentle slope down to the beach. Well, now that casuarina tree, the roots on the beach side of it are now exposed, and it's in sort of a dire situation where it's probably going to, along with a whole lot of other large casuarina trees, end up falling onto the beach. And if we actually go to the beach, it's quite a different shape at the moment. And this is the beach this morning. We've now got this very, very flat area, and that gentle slope has now been sort of completely washed away, and we've got this 1 to 2 metre embankment, and a lot of the foreshore just now falling down into what's now this larger beach. And you can see there's been some attempt in the past, I don't know when, that they've tried to put these concrete slabs along to try and reinforce the foreshore, but it's done absolutely nothing. And we've lost quite a few of these trees, and a lot more now just precariously hanging over the precipice of the foreshore. Quite a few of them already been removed. But we've gained 2 or 3 metres of additional beach. Some fishermen enjoying the additional beach size now, but we've lost 2 or 3 metres of the foreshore. And I'm sort of wondering if we're ever going to see that particular part of the beach ever again. In other words, I don't think that foreshore is not going to be magically reclaimed by the sand stacking up 2 metres high and those casuarina trees magically reappearing. So I think that the bad weather from last week has had a pretty profound effect on this foreshore, and we've now got a new paradigm where we've lost that 2 to 3 metres of foreshore. That's not going to come back, although of course a lot of sand will come back onto the area, but it's not going to stack up 2 metres high and appear with new trees. Good morning from sunny Chiang Mai, says Bill G. We'll get to Chiang Mai in a moment. Hello all from the Windy City. Gail, you should get in contact with Scott. Good morning from Georgia in the USA, says St. Christopher. Good morning, and all the chat people from lovely Hua Hin. John Armstrong has a question. He says, good morning, still from warm Minnesota. Who does Tim support in the AFL Grand Final today? Okay, the AFL is the Australian Football League. I used to be an avid follower of the AFL when I lived in Australia. My team is Collingwood. There's a whole lot of people going, boo! And I've been following them ever since I can remember. I followed them, I suppose, because my sister followed them when I was young. Then she switched teams. You don't switch teams, but she did. So, now let's just check who's actually playing today. And there's a whole lot of people who couldn't care less about this. And we've got the Sydney Swans and the Brisbane Lions. Now, both those teams originally started back in Melbourne. It was the Swans in Melbourne, and the Lions, I think they were originally called Footscray, and they've moved to Brisbane. I really don't have any thoughts about those particular teams. I haven't watched a game of AFL for the whole season. I have to say, I much prefer AFL to, what's that other game they play, started in the UK? Soccer. Not a patch. Soccer is not, football. The world game, I don't believe is a patch on the AFL, but of course it's a much, much, much bigger enterprise, but not a patch on a real game of Australian rules football. If you've never seen a game of Australian rules football, just type in AFL or Australian rules football or Australian football. Check it out. It's a bit of an eye-opener. A great game. There's no padding, colliding into one another. Real man's game. Nice picture of happy backpackers. Trying to get my brain working. Question, when is your second channel launching? Asks John Armstrong. Yes, I've got a new channel launching. It's going to be called probably Alive and Kicking. And it's going to be addressing a whole lot of topics that I don't get a chance to do on this. YouTube has pigeonholed me into the old, bald Australian guy who talks about Thai news in English box. But I've got plenty of other things I want to say. I mean, I can't be too opinionated on this channel, although I do express with a bit of a wink and a nod from time to time an opinion. But mostly I sort of have to play a fairly straight bat because mostly I'm covering the news and I don't want to be colouring the news. That's for the Thai people and the Thai media to do. I'm here basically just to present it and then let you make your own opinion. But on the other channel, I would like to express more opinions about things other than just Thailand. And in addition to that, I've got a whole lot of particular interests and some various perspectives that I'd like to pass on. Certainly things about, and the main focus will be about positivity, living a retired life, living a good retired life, and some tips about that, not necessarily related to Thailand, but about generally, because I'm sort of now starting to get into that age group where younger people would be calling me elderly. And I can't ever imagine when I was younger that I'd ever be elderly, but I'm fast approaching that. Speaking of which, I just wanted to acknowledge the death of Maggie Smith, Dame Maggie Smith, who died yesterday at the age of 89. A very short illness period in hospital. She passed away with her family with her peacefully, and she's had an extraordinary theatrical and film career spanning some 5 or 6 decades. And people would obviously know her from Harry Potter, from, of course, Downton Abbey. I loved her in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel and the second best Marigold Hotel, where she was also in the sequel. She was a great actress. I sort of got the opinion often that she was very good at playing Maggie Smith. Her sort of on-screen persona was often quite similar to one another. She was sort of the slightly annoyed establishment British lady. And I always think for the last 30 years of her career, she was sort of 89 for those last 30 years. She was always playing the older lady. But, I mean, what a great actress and a sad passing, but she did well to pack in an extraordinary career in those 89 years. And also, she lived the last, really her whole life, she kept her private life private, and she lived as a sort of a bit of a recluse in later years and never really warmed up to the media. She's not the only one. So let's get into some of the things I have to talk about, important topics that is on my mind. Let's check with the flooding to start with. Nation Thailand saying Bangkok and 5 central provinces at risk of flooding until October the 2nd. Wouldn't really want those pipes coming through my backyard, pumping water into the Chao Phraya. Bangkok plus 5 provinces in the central region could be at risk of inundation from September the 28th to October the 2nd. And the department expects rising seawater, isolated heavy rains triggered by the southwest monsoon, and a deluge from the north to increase the water levels of the Chao Phraya, Mekong and Ta Chin rivers. And here we go. Flooding caused 19 provinces to be inundated. Chiang Rai, Chiang Mai, Mae Hong Son, Lamphun, Sukhothai, Nan, Lampang, Phrae, Tak, Phitsanulok, Phetchabun Loi, Udon Thani, Nong Khai, Chayapum, Khon Kaen, Ubon Ratchathani, Ayutthaya and Prachinburi. So you've got a selection of areas up in the far north, the northeast, particularly along the Mekong River, and also in central Thailand. Let's just very quick check the weather map. This is Thailand. We can see up in the north and the northeast, fairly dry at the moment. A few thunderstorms right in the centre in Phutsanulok. Then along the west coast of the Andaman Sea, Myanmar has a lot of rain approaching. And down there at the bottom we can see Phuket, relatively dry with some offshore rain activity. Looking wider, we've got quite a big tropical storm called 20W here, approaching the northern part of the Philippines, but it looks like it's going to scoot across the north and head towards Taiwan, and could be impacting them within the next 2 or 3 days. So a big tropical storm there. It looks like it's almost cyclonic in its intensity, called 20W. So that's the current weather situation. Now, up in Chiang Mai, flash flood at Doi Suthep in Chiang Mai this morning. Well, when's that article dated? Trying to scroll back. 27th, this is yesterday morning. Torrential rain throughout last night, that would have been Thursday night, at Doi Suthep sent a raging torrent of water cascading down the mountain, levelling many trees, causing mudslides and inundating several communities at its base. A resident said the water came so fast they were caught by surprise and were unable to move their valuables to higher ground. A photo there from Paha community. And the Chiang Mai University was So yes, the Chiang Mai University is now partially flooded. The latest report says the flood waters have receded after the irrigation office opened the sluice gate to drain it into the irrigation canal. So Chiang Mai train station remains closed. This is yesterday, but staff have been arranging for stranded passengers to be transferred to a bus terminal instead. Okay, we'll get to that story a little bit later. So the situation in Chiang Mai obviously has improved a bit, but there are still isolated areas. The base there of Doi Suthep and also around the Chiang Mai University. If you are travelling by train to Chiang Mai today, just check whether the train station has reopened. But obviously there are quite a few services that have been interrupted up in that area. Okay, so let's get to some of your questions. And the overriding question that we're asking today is Thailand ready for the high season? The high season starts, I sort of see it starting at the start of December. That's when the monsoon starts weakening. We get these longer, sunnier days in most of Thailand. Of course, there are parts like Samui, like Hua Hin, which get their rain a little bit later in the year. And they usually have a wet season in sort of November, December. But for most of Thailand, the monsoon is slowing down by the start of December. And it's actually the winter, in theory. So the best time of the year in Thailand is the winter. So the high season would then go through December, January, February. Then it starts heating up until we get this hot season. But the high season, it takes in the Western Christmas and New Year period, and it is the busiest period in Thailand every year. Of course, Chinese New Year also very busy, and there are times actually coming up into the next couple of weeks we get this Golden Week or golden something or other. It's a Chinese holiday, and that's also very busy for parts of Thailand as well. So is the flooding and all the publicity about the flooding putting off tourists from visiting Thailand? Is the high Thai baht putting off tourists visiting Thailand? We'll check the Thai baht in just a moment. But before that, I'm going to go to some of your comments and questions. And let's see, we don't want to miss anybody. Where is Steve Ross? Has he been eaten by cats and dogs? No, he hasn't. Steve's fine. A lot of people saying, when are you restarting Grumpy Old Men? If and when we do restart it, it'll be started in the new channel. At the moment, I'm madly trying to get these 2 new properties. I'm going like that because they're in that direction, ready for rentals. So that's taking up all my time when I'm not doing my YouTube and other things. But Steve's fine, building turtles and doing well. Good morning, Tim. I hope you have a great show today, says Sean. Thank you. Good morning from Georgia. Good morning from Chiang Mai. Fine here today, says Roads and Revelations, Thailand Travel and Beyond. That is the longest name I think I've ever read. Morning, Tim, from Central Bangkok. Arrived through 3 weeks ago. Set up my new apartment. That's from Hackle Guru. Welcome and congratulations. Hope you have a great time in Bangkok. Anil RC. Hi, Tim. Will I get 60-day stamp if I travel in October from India, as the visa exemption will get over on November the 11th? I don't know what you're talking about. If you are from one of 93 countries at the moment, if it's India, if you're Indian, you will get a 60-day visa exemption when you arrive in Thailand. There's no ETA at the moment. There's none of this electronic travel authorization. That may come in the future, but it hasn't been introduced yet. And in fact, its introduction has been postponed. So you can forget about it for this year, probably early next year at the earliest if they can get their act together. But if you are from India, you can come to Thailand and get a 60-day visa exemption. In other words, you can arrive without a visa and you'll get a stamp in your passport that says that you can stay for 60 days. And you can extend that for another 30 days after a visit to a immigration office with, I think you just have to fill out a form and pay 1,900 baht. So long since I did that, I've sort of forgotten. Fun-sized media. I have 60 subscribers. Half them are my friends and family. Well, are you doing better than me with your friends and family? I don't think any of my friends and family are subscribed. The Queensland Tiger. Good morning from an overcast Char Arm. Johnny, thank you very much. Appreciate your contribution to the program. It's much appreciated. Werner B, thank you from you're in Singapore. Thank you very much. Appreciate you getting involved in the program. Scott D, thank you again. Scott's got a comment along with his super chat. My family and I enjoyed an awesome boating experience with 5 Star Marine. Oh yes, speaking of 5 Star Marine, our sponsors, in July of 2023. Was it last year, Scott? Oh, yes, it was. Yes. Greetings from Sean Stenning. Greetings to Sean Stenning and the team for their continued charity work and support of your channel. Yes, if you didn't hear, Sean and 5 Star Marine have signed up for another period. Might be another week, but I'm hoping it might be for another year. And we enjoy our relationship with 5 Star Marine because, not only do they do great boat trips, but of course Sean and his extended chairmanship of Living Waters Phuket are behind a lot of different charity drives and charities, including eye care, which has been helping thousands of people up in the north of Thailand in their recoveries from the flood, and many charities, of course, down the south, including on Phuket as well, under the banner of Living Waters Phuket. Okay, so yes, thanks for acknowledging 5 Star Marine. Good, the flooding will end on October the 2nd. I'll be there on October the 8th. Yeah, look, who knows what's coming in the next couple of months. You get these approaching typhoons. A lot of them tend to drag the moist, warm air up from the Indian Ocean, and that ends up as rain. And depending on the strength of the typhoons and where they hit along usually the Vietnamese coast, a couple of days later they're going to be entering into Thailand, and they're either going to drop a lot of rain or not quite as much rain, but they are going to cause some flooding this time of the year. I think my overall comment about the flooding, as we're addressing the topic of Thailand getting ready for the high season, is that the worst flooding Thailand had was back in 2011. It was the worst flooding because it did affect a lot of factories and commercial enterprises in the central part of Thailand. So It made big headlines because it was affecting those really big car companies. I would argue that this year the flooding has been much more extensive, but because it's been affecting communities, smaller communities rather than big commercial enterprises, it tends to not be getting the same sort of power of headlines, even though I think the flooding has been more extensive in pure geographical area than it was in the past. And it's not over because, as we mentioned, those floodwaters are now making their way down towards Bangkok, and they're alerting communities down the Chao Phraya as it heads towards the Gulf of Thailand that they may be inundated to a greater or lesser degree. Arnold Ziffel, talking about sport, says hockey is the real sport. Watch the Vegas Gold Knights versus Utah Hockey Club here in Las Vegas. I've been to an ice hockey game live. Where did I see it? I can't even remember. It was back in 1991, I think. Fairly violent, I thought. Zach says, hopefully not as bad as the flooding in 2011. Parts of Bangkok were a metre or more underwater. Yeah, it's just it's where the rains fall and the floods hit. I don't think Bangkok is going to be as badly flooded, and perhaps I'm fairly sure that it won't be as badly flooded as it was back in 2011. Thug life. Aussie rules football is like watching a bunch of headless chooks running around, or as the Kiwis say, aerial ping pong. Yes, I've heard it referred to as aerial ping pong before. It's like American football, but for men, says Rude Potato. Yes, that American football I find soulless and boring and a waste of good media space. Oh, good heavens, I'm sharing opinions. I shouldn't do that. I'm sure there are plenty of people that love it, and good luck to your teams. Morning, Tim. Question, have you decided to buy Bitcoin yet? It keeps going up since last time you talked about it. No, it hasn't. I've been watching. I check the Bitcoin price every single day. If you bought Bitcoin about 6 months ago, you've lost about 20% value in the last 6 months. You don't need me to tell you that. You can check any day of the week. There's not a hope in hell I will go anywhere near Bitcoin. Call me old-fashioned, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that disagree. My father used to say, don't put money into anything that you can't drive past every single day. I know that's really old-fashioned, but I thought it was pretty sound advice. And at my age, I'm not going to be risking a single baht. Every single baht I earn at the moment is keeping me in Thailand for another couple of hours in the future, because I'm completely self-funded into my retirement, whenever that might be. The Australian government aren't going to give me a red cent, even though I paid enormous amounts of tax for a long, long time. I won't be eligible, or to be eligible, I'd have to go back to Australia, live there for 2 years. And at this time of my life, when I'm happy and ambitious and I love waking up every day, living across from a beach, if I went back to Australia, heaven knows where I'd be living. But I'd be living in abject poverty living in Australia. I'm not going to sentence myself to that. I'm staying here. So, I've made that commitment, and I've just got to work my ass off for the next, 3, 5, 10 years. Make these Airbnbs work as hard as I can. Keep doing the YouTube while people keep watching, and that is going to keep me going into my dotage. I won't be buying Bitcoin. Tim, Brisbane were Fitzroy. Thank you very much, Warren Williams. You're absolutely right. I haven't lived in Australia for 13 years. I really don't follow it anymore. The Swans was South Melbourne. That's correct. Brisbane was Fitzroy, not Footscray. Footscray. I can't remember all the machinations. Morning from sunny Singapore, says Ray Bond. Good evening from Northern California. Just want to make sure I haven't missed any questions. Instant answer to the title, no. So the Shepherd, the question is, will Thailand be ready for the high season? The Shepherd is saying no. The 300 baht arrival fee is not an issue. The 300 baht arrival fee hasn't been introduced. It's being re-proposed after being postponed several times, but it hasn't been introduced yet. No date for its introduction. But the ETA is. The ETA is a proposal. They said last week that they're not going to be doing it this year. As Dina rushes into the room, come and say hello, Dina. She's not going to do that in a pink fit. They decided they're going to postpone it. It's going to be, I don't know, well into the early part of next year before we see anything like an ETA. So I don't think those things, the 300 baht arrival fee or the ETA, are an issue because they're not issues yet. They're just proposals. Simply not prepared yet. That's right. So it's been postponed. Drop it until next low season and stop winding people up with uncertainty. I'm actually telling you precisely what's happening, well, precisely as the Thai government can be, with what they're doing. It's been postponed. So I don't think the 300 baht arrival fee, arrival levy, tourist tax, or the ETA are issues leading up to the high season because neither of them are going to be introduced before the high season. Be very surprised if they introduced the 300 baht arrival fee before the high season. I'd be super surprised. Okay, my wife and her friends are using the flooding to go fishing, catching really small fish, which make a special dish near udon whoop whoop, as you call it. There was a movie called Welcome to Whoop Whoop. Whoop Whoop is a fictional Australian place, destination out in the outback somewhere. If you don't know much about Australia, Australia is a huge continent. It's a huge island, small continent. Either way, it's huge with only 26 million people. And all the people pretty much live on a sliver on the east coast and a little bit down the southwest coast, which is where Perth is, and a few up in Darwin as well. But 90% of Australia, which is everything in the middle, is pretty much desert. And Whoop Whoop is a place somewhere out in the desert. So type in Welcome to Whoop Whoop. I tried to make a musical. Didn't sort of work. Anyway, so when we talk about Whoop Whoop, we're talking about somewhere a long way away, either in our imagination or geographically. Okay, so good luck to your wife. And I'm taking dollars. I hope the dollar will strengthen against the baht and the ladies will drink slow in Pattaya, says Rock. Am I the only one that has a black screen? Probably, because nobody else has mentioned it. G'day, legend, says Warren Williams. Sunny 23 degrees in Melbourne for the last dance, which refers to the Australian Football League Grand Final. Let's go to the recent messages. Bill G, any interesting news from your meeting with 5-Star Marine the past week? Bill, thank you very much for your contribution, by the way. Yes, I don't know how much I can... I suppose I should be checking... I'll announce it. I'll get told off if I've made a mistake. 5-Star Marine have partnered with a aesthetic surgery clinic. They're building a 50-room hotel in the centre of Phuket, which will have attached to it an aesthetic clinic, cosmetic surgery. I'm lining up. I'm getting a few things done. What about the nose? Probably get a nose reduction. What else? A bit of liposuction. I don't know, a shoulder lift or something. So that's all coming up. Sorry, Sean, if I wasn't meant to announce it. I didn't say where, didn't say when. What else are they doing? They're buying new boats. And I don't know if people know, but and we'll do a story about this, but over the past year, 5-Star Marine has pivoted from not only doing their trips out into Phang, but they're also turned into fixers. Fixers in the media industry are people who sort of organise places, locations, people, lunches, everything. So all these film companies that are coming to do films in Krabi or Phuket or Phang, anything to do with the water, 5-star marina providing the boats and all the resources, and they say, oh, we need to rent 5 cars. They do that sort of stuff. So they're fixers. And it's become a really big thing, and Sean loves it. Now, it's taken a lot of resources from 5-star Marine, but of course the staff have been loving mixing with this Hollywood crowd, and Sean has and his company have been getting quite a good reputation for being great fixers for these film crews coming to southern Thailand, such that more film crews are coming. Did you see the Meg, about the big shark? Well, Sean was the fixer for Meg 2, and they're in planning stages for Meg 3. Does the world need a Meg 3? No, I don't believe so. And I'm not sure that Jason Statham really wants to do it, but apparently he has to. So we are going to see a Meg 3, and somewhere in the credits will be 5-star Marine or Sean Stenning or other members of his staff. So, yeah, there's more of that coming. So they've had to buy more boats just to look after the fixer side of the business, and of course maintain their boats and the staff for their trips taking people out into Phang Bay. So I think I can tell you that, Bill. A few things I don't dare say at the moment, but we will be seeing Sean on camera a little bit more. He's promised that he'll make himself more available. He's also promised, because he couldn't do it last year because they were so damn busy, that I'll be able to get out on a boat to some trips so we can take you out onto Phang Bay for some of their special trips to areas I bet you've never been to. So that's all coming up in future months. Okay, let's keep on going here. I just saw a car going past. I'm not even driving a car. Scott D, I think we've done that one. Werner, we've also thanked you. Bill G, okay. Luis Rodriguez, good morning, Tim. Happy to be back in Southeast Asia. I enjoyed your podcasts everywhere I travelled in the past 5 months. Thanks for your program. Yeah, I mean, after I do finish, again, pointing to the 2 new beach house number 4 and number 5, do you want to see them? I think I've got them on my computer here somewhere. No, I haven't. You can actually, there's links in the description if you want to see them. So we're still sort of doing the finishing touches. The garden. I must have bought 100 plants over the last week. When we had the big storms last week, we had, of course, because it's coming directly from the west and because we're only 50 or 60 metres from the beach, a little bit closer to the beach than we were before the storms. But the salt air and the intensity of the wind, this 25 knots to 30 knots every single day for a week, some of the plants just got really knocked around. We've got all these big bougainvilleas and they've had all the leaves blown off them. I think the leaves will grow back. But I went to the nurseries this week, and nurseries, garden shops where you buy plants. Seems it's only in Australia we call them nurseries. But I've said to the people, they've got to be hardy. They've got to be able to live on the coast. They've got to be able to put up with wind. They've got to be able to put up with salt air. So more than anything else, when you're living in an area like this and running these beach houses, the maintenance, keeping salt off everything, either stopping the salt getting on it in the first place or washing it off. Often the cars get washed every couple of days because the salt air is just very corrosive and is the major problem we have here along Tham Luang Beach running a business. Just thought I'd mention that. Australia officially became 27 million very recently, Tim. That's from David Connolly. Thank you very, very much. And so 27 million people on that huge island. I think Australia, here we go. People are going to be arguing over a square metre here or there. Australia's sort of similar size to the USA, sort of similar, I think a bit smaller than China, but I mean, it's that sort of perspective. It's that big. It's a very, very large island, but most of it's just desert. Spectacular desert, definitely worth seeing if you haven't, but desert nonetheless. Kuntim will become the leading actor. Jason Statham is nobody. Pad Thai. Yeah, yes. It would be interesting. Sean now is a bit of a mini Hollywood mogul in his own way. I think he's also working with a streaming service and suggesting or even putting up ideas for programs. Can you imagine a mini-series of grumpy old men? I can't. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. Interesting times. Jason's Statham or Statham. You know who I'm talking about. Sort of looks a bit like me, but I'm a little bit more handsome. Good morning, good folk. It's sunny in Sakon Nakhon. Okay. John Baker, my US Social Security and a small private pension allow me to live in Thailand like a king. I wouldn't do nearly as well if I'd stayed in the United States. This is from John Baker. Okay, now this is a very good point. I had somebody sending me a note the other day saying there are some retirees in Thailand having a really hard time at the moment because of this 15% collapse in the value of the US dollar against the Thai baht. Now, it's not as if the US dollar is collapsing or the Thai baht's rising. They're both floating currencies, but at the moment, the value of the Thai baht has risen some 15% against the US dollar over the past 3 months, which has sort of had this sudden concern. A lot of people, myself included, because I earn US dollars, well, now I'm getting 15% less than I was 3 months ago. But if we check the currencies, I did have this somewhere. Here we go. It's loading and pressing the button over here. And okay, so this is the last year, and it shows the value of the US dollar to the Thai baht. And certainly over the past 12 months, the US dollar is at its lowest point. This is at the last 12 months. Today, it's at the value of 32.3 Thai baht to the US dollar. That's looking at 1 year. Let's have a look at 10 years. And over 10 years, at the moment, the Thai baht's sort of roughly in the centre of an average of where it's been over the past 10 years. And you can see that the US dollar was a lot lower than the Thai baht value back in 2019, 20 and 2021, where the situation was a lot worse than it is now. So although a lot of people might be suffering and wondering what the hell's going on, the value of the US dollar has been a lot lower against the Thai baht in the past. So those retirees who are struggling at the moment, they would have struggled back in the past as well if they've been getting a US pension or money from the US. The Thai baht has also risen in value against a lot of other currencies as well, not all. I think it's fairly stable against the Aus dollar, for example, but it's dropped a lot. But it's gained a lot against the Singapore dollar, against the euro, against the Chinese yuan. Well, we were checking the currencies earlier in the week. So, yeah, there you go. The currencies go up and down. As to what's going to happen with the currency in the future, your guess is as good as mine. It could turn around tomorrow, or it could keep rising against the US dollar. So, but it is causing some consternation because the drop has been fairly sudden over the past 3 months. A lot of people sort of wondering, well, you know, how low is this value of the US dollar going to go against the Thai baht? It's worrying manufacturers and a lot of people in the hospitality industry. worrying about the forthcoming high season, saying, well, we're just not getting the number of bookings that we were getting in the past, and they fear the high value of the Thai baht is concerning them at the moment. So let's go to your comments on this, and we'll see how we go. What else? I don't want to miss anything. Who cares about 300 baht? This is from Zach. When you go to Italy, you have to pay €6 a day city tax. Yeah, these taxes, arrival taxes, hospitality taxes, are not unusual. And Thailand had a departure tax of 700 baht for about 2 decades. Nobody seems to have whinged about that. So I think it's just an opportunity for people to whinge sometime. Tim, if you buy Bitcoin now, you can retire earlier. Oh, for heaven's sake. You don't know if Bitcoin's going up or going down tomorrow. There's a 50-50 chance it'll go up or go down. A Bitcoin could go to nothing, or it could rise and rise and rise, and you could make lots of money. I know one person who's made a lot of money out of Bitcoin. I also know probably 15 or so other friends or acquaintances who have lost a lot of money on Bitcoin. You're betting. You're taking a risk. Don't risk one single dollar that you can't afford to lose. And particularly with something like Bitcoin, because if it all goes to shit, you're stuck with nothing. At least with a property, they go down in value, up in value. But if it goes down in value, at least you've still got the property. Or if you buy gold and the value drops away, at least you've still got that gold bar or gold coin or whatever it is, gold futures. So if you lose your money in Bitcoin, you're stuck with fresh air. And don't tell me I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I've done a lot of reading about it. I've just made my own opinion about it. That opinion is different from a lot of other people's. I'm never going to influence anybody to buy or sell Bitcoin. It's up to you to make that decision. Personally, I won't be investing or going anywhere near Bitcoin or any of the other coins. Any snakes sneak up your loo and bite your balls yet, Kun Tim, says Pat Thai. No. We do get these occasional stories about snakes in toilets. It's infrequent, but it does sort of make you think when you go to the toilet, just have a little bit of a look first. I figure if there's going to be a python in my toilet, I'm going to hear some sort of sloshing before anything happens. But I suppose it is in the back of my mind and other parts of my body when I go to the toilet a bit these days. Good morning, Tim. For my first trip to Chiang Mai, due to the flooding, I'm only visiting the Old Town and Niman areas. Good excuse to come back in a couple of months. Somebody was saying a bit earlier that the market's reopened again. The big Chiang Mai market, I think, had closed due to some flooding, but it's opened up again. Okay, so just looking for any more. Arnold Ziffel's got a question. Can you show your outgoing flight, say around day 85, on the 60-day visa exempt with the intention of paying the 1900 baht for the extra 30-day extension? Can you show your outgoing flight? You can get an extension without showing them your ticket. I mean, they may ask to see your outward bound ticket, but I don't think usually, the extension is usually granted without many questions. I mean, they'll check your history with immigration, make sure you haven't overstayed in the past, things like that. But don't think you have to show any bookings or onward journeys at the moment, getting a 30-day extension onto a visa exempt 60 days. Okay, what else? I missed anybody? Steve Massingham. I live in Phetchabun. No flooding where I live. Muang Phetchabun, that's the city area, has a huge festival ongoing. Last night a neighbour farmer burnt his recently harvested cornfields. Hope the wind's not blowing in the wrong direction. Of course, we do have from sort of January through to April and May, this burning season up in the north, and it will be interesting to see if the Thai government, under its current form, with a new Prime Minister, will be doing anything about mitigating the burning season. Do they have the power to control those farmers lighting all those fires up in the north? They certainly don't have much power on the farmers in Myanmar and Laos. And of course, the smoke just blows across the border into Thailand. But unfortunately, I think that we're going to be talking about it next year. I had another quick story here I wanted to mention. So we'll just go to the video. Maris tells Biden Thailand ready to strengthen ties with the US. Maris is the foreign minister for Thailand, and Jill and Joe Biden. The foreign minister, Maris, met with the US President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Wednesday, and reaffirmed Thailand's readiness to work closely with the US to strengthen the long-standing relationship between the two nations. And relations between the two countries span nearly 2 centuries, and their cooperation encompasses defence, trade, investment, and people-to-people ties. Thailand has had a long relationship with the United States, and it's a reasonably special relationship, partly because the former king of Thailand, Bhumibol Adulyadej Rama IX, he was actually born in the United States, and it gave people in the United States, or deliveries arrived, thank you very much. This might be a new shirt or something. Let's have a look. I get, at the moment, 3 or 4 deliveries a day. All the local delivery people know where we are. I'll get back to the United States in just a moment. Is this another shirt? Oh, it is a shirt, I think. I think this is from a subscriber. Let's have a quick look. And I know who sent this. I can't remember your name, sir, but I'll get back to... What have we got here? Oh, look at this. It's a grumpy old men shirt. Look at that. But here I am, killing it. I never dreamt that one day I'll become a grumpy old man. One for me, one for Steve. That looks like Steve's size. So thank you. I'll be giving you a bigger thank you. We might have to do just a special grumpy old men to thank you for those great shirts. Fabulous. Love it. Love the colours too. So thank you very much for that. Any more deliveries coming? We've got a full-time employee now, and it's our first employee in this Beach House Thailand business. And his name's Game. And he helps with the maintenance and a bit of cleaning. The maintenance is just the biggest cost. Not so much the biggest cost, but just the biggest discipline you need to do. Changing a bed and fluffing up a room and a bit of painting here and there. Okay. Maintaining it and making sure when the customer arrives, it's spotlessly clean and things aren't rusting or falling apart. That's the biggest job I've found. Thanks for those shirts. They're fabulous. Okay, we're sort of winding up here. I was going to finish talking about the United States and Thailand. Yes, Rama IX was born in the United States, and there were special concessions for US citizens. I think there are still some concessions in regards to like starting a company or something like that. You'd have to probably contact Ben Hart from Integrity Legal to give you special advice on the Amnesty Treaty. Okay, I'm just now riffing, talking about things I don't know about. But Thailand has also been very clever, playing this neutrality game over the years, and it also courts China, and it's had good relations with both China and the US for a long time. And from time to time, the Thais and the Thai government will play off the US and the Chinese government, and they just noted when it comes to a number of geopolitical situations that Thailand is going to remain neutral. And this is a stance that Thailand has taken over the years. But the foreign minister meeting up with the US president during the week. Okay, so we're going to spend the rest of the program just addressing your comments. I'm just going to bring the computer a little bit closer and push that away. Tim, don't worry to belong to the elderly. I know it's weird to be the same age as old people, says Werner B. Watch it, Buster. Good, the flooding will end. Okay, Zach says USA. Okay, scroll. What else have we got here? I can see another question there. Okay, question from Tony Fossey. Hello to Tony. Tim, you say it's better to invest in property, but are you worried about being ripped off by your Thai owners of these properties once you finish doing them up and taking them back? Okay, when I say investing in property, I'm talking about Bitcoin and property generally. And I'm using property just as a metaphor, saying that with Bitcoin, you are buying fear of missing out and hope and good wishes, because you're buying sort of fresh air. At least if you do buy property or gold or something else, you have something in your hand, even if the value drops. That was just the comparison. Regarding my properties, I have long leases on those properties. And yes, there is a risk that something could go wrong. But the important thing when you do business in Thailand, it's not only about the paperwork. In fact, it's much more about the relationships. So I've spent time getting to know these landlords, talking to them, discussing different things with them, maybe a little gift here or there to members of their family, all sorts of little things that build up a relationship. And the relationships are important. One property, for example, is owned by the local electric goods sort of shop. So I've been buying fridges and washing machines and TVs from that particular shop, which is all part of business building, relationship building. So the paperwork is one thing, but it's no guarantee, the paperwork here. And certainly in a little town like Thai Muang, it's more about relationships. But yeah, I have technically 10-year leases with an opportunity to sign up for another 10 years. And yeah, I have spent, not sheep stations, but I've spent money on improving the value of those properties. And that's a risk I've taken. But I'm now also earning the opportunity to get recompensed through Airbnb. So I can't buy the properties. If the opportunity came up, if the Thai government changed their rules on property ownership, they won't. But if they did, I might look at buying those properties. But then again, at my age, it's cheaper for me just to lease them year by year than to buy them. Bill G. Question: what are your thoughts regarding the upcoming high season? Boom or bust? If you were PM, what moves would you make in regard to tourism? I think the biggest issues, as I mentioned earlier, the floods making those headlines around the world is not a good look. And I would be, getting the TAT to say, hey, we might have had some floods, but Thailand is still open. 99% of the places you love are still open for you to visit. And like today, the sun's out and the weather will improve. We're through the worst of the wet season in most parts of Thailand. So, yes, there will be some more rains. There will be a few more floods, but the worst is behind us for this year. And I think it's important for the government to say Thailand's open regarding the government. Yes, we had a change of Prime Minister. Other countries have changes of Prime Minister. The continuity of government has continued throughout. It's not as if there's been a coup or anything. Some might call it a soft coup, but the continuity of government has been continuous at all times, even during the time when they changed over Prime Minister. Will the change of Prime Minister change anything to do with tourism in Thailand? I would suggest not. I'd just be getting onto the TAT saying, hey, look, you just need to spend a little bit of extra effort, time and money to just bring people back, tell them everything's fine. Thailand is ready and waiting for their booking, despite the fact that booking might cost a bit more than it did in the past. Still a pretty cheap holiday, I think. David Connolly. Tim, talking about investing, I agree with you when you say that you don't advise buying property in Thailand. Could you elaborate on your reasoning? I think I've done that before and got into trouble with a couple of real estate companies. Yes, personally, I would never buy property in Thailand, even though I said I might. I wouldn't buy property in Thailand now, because you can't buy land as a foreigner unless there's exceptional circumstances. There are some visas that allow you to buy some property to a certain size, but I mean, they've got very high bars to jump over to give you that opportunity to actually have freehold on the property. You can get freehold on a condo, like an apartment, but you can't get freehold over a block of land. And will that change in the future? I just don't see it happening. They've proposed that they might allow longer leases up to 99 years. They've proposed that they may allow the proportion of a condominium project to go up from 49% foreign ownership up to 75%. But nothing's happened to that proposal, and that seems to have fallen by the wayside again. But the other workarounds to own property in Thailand pretty much involve putting together a Thai company. Is that two? Oh, it's a cat and a dog. Daisy and Dusty playing chasey out the front. Thought it was two dogs. I thought, oh, hey, we've got another dog. Yeah, with the company, but you're only ever going to own 49% of that company, and no matter how they structure it, you're still not really owning that property. But look, it might be worthwhile, and I don't want to be advising people on this. I will hopefully in the future, maybe on the new channel, we can talk about property in Thailand. Personally, even if I had the money, I wouldn't be investing on trying to secure some form of ownership in Thailand unless they change the rules and allow foreigners to own property in Thailand. I just don't see that happening. That's about it. John Baker, save your money if you want to gamble and then go to a casino and have a good time. Maybe you'll get rich, maybe you'll lose all your money. That's pretty much the way I see Bitcoin. It's at least with a casino, you sort of get a bit of atmosphere and perhaps a couple of free drinks. With Bitcoin, you don't even get that. Mutt Irk, the Thai baht has been rising against the Australian dollar too. It's now 22.33. It was above 24 before. Yes, I think it's a little bit less dramatic drop than the US dollar versus the Thai baht. The departure tax has had its negative comments at the time, the same as the new arrival tax. I agree with just bump the departure tax to 1,000 baht and people won't know. Yeah, you're probably right, Paul. Okay, that's about it. I seem to remember, says Mr. Ben's World, that experts said the value of the baht relative to the dollar would be going in the opposite direction. That's what they said at the beginning of 2024. Yeah, there's plenty of people out there that just wish the Thai baht to drop. They just wish the economy would go bad. They might live here, they might not live here. There was some person that texted me, somebody Wicket. It's just got an appalling attitude towards Thais and Thailand. And it's just, yeah, there are some people that just want the worst for Thailand. I generally want the best for Thailand, not only because I live here, but I genuinely want the country to flourish in the future. I also don't want it to lose its culture and some of the quirkiness, because that in many cases is the reason we sort of moved to Thailand. But we just hope that some of the inconsistencies maybe become more consistent in the future. On the side of the Thai people. But I mean, Thailand, like every other country in the world, is slowly dragging itself, kicking and screaming into the 21st century. Some of it's good and some of it's bad, but it will continue to evolve. And those in the Thai government, or even people in the comments section that wish Thailand was back in the 1950s, those days are now in the rear-view mirror. Thailand is struggling forward, a couple of steps back, but 3 steps forward, and in its own quirky way. And it's not for me to have an attitude about the way the Thais go about it. It's up to the Thai people to decide their country's own future and its destiny. And things that you think are wrong or inconsistent, the Thais are not going to care a damn about what you think. It's really up to them to decide what they do with the future of their country. And of course, we do wish them the best, as I do pretty much every day. 10 minutes past 10, I've got to go. I've got more painting to do. I'll be taking off my 5-Star Marine shirt. There's a link in the description for 5-Star Marine and Beach House Thailand. I thank you all so much for joining in over the past hour. And we do hope that Thailand has a great high season ahead. And we'll just have to see if the publicity over the floods or the high value of the Thai baht versus other currencies at the moment is going to deter a percentage of people from coming. We'll only know once we get to the high season and we see what the hotel bookings are like. Now, somebody, Pat Thai says, hit that like button. So I invite you to hit the like button before you go. That would be much appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I certainly hope you can do that as well. Thanks for watching this morning. Been great spending this last hour with you. Hopefully you know a little bit more about Thailand now than you did an hour before. Have a fantastic weekend. Good luck to the Sydney Swans and the Brisbane Lions in the Australian Grand Final. I'll see you again on Monday.